Hey guys, it is Cassie from Rhythm Roots and Faith, and I felt called again this morning to do a recording of myself doing my morning reading. So, welcome. Just going to close my eyes, take a couple deep breaths, get relaxed in this time and space. I'd like to call on my spirit council to please join me here in this time and space. Help me to cleanse and remove any harmful or stagnant energy that exists within and all around me. And help me to find the messages that I most need to hear today for my highest good, harming none. What do I most need to hear today for my highest good, harming none? And as always, I thank you so much for your continued guidance, presence, and support in my life. And so it is. All right. I'm going to use my Wildwood Tarot deck today, connecting with nature. This is a very nature-oriented deck, so I'm going to see what comes out. So when I do these, I read for myself, but I read as though I'm reading for other people. So it gives me that open awareness, and it gives me the ability to look at the cards objectively without attachment, which is really important in getting like the juicy goodness. Once again, only messages for the highest good. Welcome in this time and space. Thank you. What do I most need to hear today for my highest good, harming none? So if you happen to find yourself watching this, there's a good chance that it is a message for you as well, or there's at least elements present here that are for you also. This is fun because so far I've pulled 2 cards that I just pulled the other day. So that's always funny when that happens. In the same exact... One is reversed like it was the other day, and one is upright like it was the other day. What else do I need to hear today for my highest good, harming none? Thank you. Anything else? 1, 2, 3. All right. Well, when I see repeating cards, that's like an extra oomph to pay attention. It's definitely very. I mean, I just had these the other day, 2 of the 3 of these. So, I'm just gonna get into it. Maybe I was supposed to record my interpretation of these. I don't know, but I'm gonna start with the first one that popped out. So this is the Ancestor. This would correlate to the Hierophant in the traditional tarot deck. This particular card has a bit of a different energy than the Hierophant does in the traditional tarot, in the sense that we've got what appears to be a female stag or centaur in cloak and gown out in nature with a drum, and there's nobody else present here. Nobody and nothing else is present here other than the trees themselves and the snow and the moon in the background. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it is a crescent moon in the background. The antlers are present though, and that's super symbolic, and I've been getting antler symbology again And antlers are this divine connection. It's this very strong divine connection. You could almost think of antlers like antennas, like there's a very similar root word there. And the function of antennas, or the function of the antennas is to sense and perceive the outside environment, right? To perceive and sense the outside environment. And so, any animals with, horns or antlers like this, or even like insects that have these antennas, this is showing their sort of connection to the outer world. It's showing this extension. It's showing this natural extended perception of the world around. And so when we're thinking about Hierophant energy, we're talking about that spiritual knowing, that energy and essence of just being naturally connected. And so this stag, feminine essence is naturally connected to the environment, right? Not just because of the antlers, but because, it is in this creature's nature to be connected. And I think it's really symbolic that we have a drum here with the triple spiral on it. She, he, it, this energy also knows the rhythms of nature and the rhythm of the heartbeat, the true heartbeat, and being tuned into that. And it's so symbolic that this energy is solitary in this card, showing that solitary journey inward, right? And so this is interesting because I went to a women's circle last night, and the question that was presented was that of, how do you find sacredness in everyday life? And my answer to that question was that I am just being the change that I want to see in the world and embodying that more and more each and every day. And so this is really symbolic to me of like the Hierophant or this ancestral energy. It's like there's just this internal knowing and this internal nudging that comes from the environment around that is received, from these sensings, tuning into the natural rhythm of nature, the wisdom of nature, and the energy and information that's all around. We can tune into ourselves as well, but there's always that higher wisdom and that higher knowledge available to guide us. And somebody else at that circle was talking about winter and the cycle of winter. And I'm in Wisconsin, so we have not as much anymore, but we have colder winters and there's snow. And, the appearance of nature is that it is dead, but it is in fact just resting. And there's a lot of wisdom in that rest period, in that regeneration. So it's symbolic to me also that this energy is present in the midst of the snow, in the midst of the forest, in the midst of winter, and even with this crescent moon. So the moon is not even full. So there's a lot of this potential dormant energy resting that can be drawn upon. And then finally, the birch trees in this card kind of symbolizing this regeneration. The birch tree has this sort of papery bark that can be torn off. And so but it doesn't hurt the tree. There's this sort of resilience in its bark, and it symbolizes this sort of regenerative quality, kind of like that of the snake skin. It's like this shedding the old to become the new, and that's what nature does. Every year, every cycle is that, our trees shed their leaves and our plants and everything kind of die away so that, it can regenerate in the spring. So there's this very primal and ancestral and natural wisdom that can be drawn upon at this time. Okay. Then the other card that I received the other day, just like this is the Nine of Wands, or Nine of Bows, but also Nine of Wands. in reverse. It says on here respect. So when I look at this card, I see this very fierce warrior. There's these bows that kind of symbolize a tent in the background, and he is on the hunt. He also has horns, by the way, but he's like in survival mode too. I definitely get this sense, and like the traditional interpretation or the traditional imagery of the Nine of Wands in the tarot suggests this energy of being a wounded warrior or being in survival mode, quite literally, like the bow's energy being, that action and those decisions and those choices and the doings, the thing that we are doing or the things that we are doing. And so, this energy present of being in survival mode and just doing the next thing just to survive, right? And it's like, because this is in reverse, it's showing an ending of being in this survival energy, of being in this very active phase of just trying to get to the next step or just trying to get to the next meal. Like quite literally, that could be the energy that's present in here. But the thing is that there's not anything wrong with being in this energy either. It says on the bottom of the card, respect, and it's like, well, he maybe could appear as though he's struggling. And even in the traditional tarot, there's definitely that sense. I believe he has like a bandage on his head and he's standing in front of these wands. There's this sense that it was a struggle, but the struggle was also necessary. This sense of trying to make it work, trying to make it happen. These struggles and these situations that we go through that kind of really test our strength and our vigor and our resiliency. This is what builds us into stronger people. And also at the same time, having a respect for that process and that part of ourselves that endured that energy, that environment, that situation, the people, right, that create this energy of needing or feeling like there's a need to survive. There's so much beauty and value in that experience. But this showing up in reverse is showing me that there is an ending of this like survival type mentality, or this doing to try to get somewhere, to try to achieve, because the ancestor is here, and the ancestor has so much, is teaching and showing the way to this really divine and expansive wisdom and knowledge of nature, of the cycles of being in flow state, which is actually what we're going to get to next. All right. So the final card here is the Ace of Vessels. This is beautiful. So this would translate to the Ace of Cups in the traditional tarot. I think it's very cool that each one of these cards shows a figure with horns or antlers. Here we have the stag himself taking a drink from the pond. There's a very graceful swan in the background. And then there's this very interesting waterfall type feature that's pouring into this pond, and it says on the bottom of here, the waters of life. So the Ace of Cups, or the Ace of Vessels here, this is first of all, a brand new beginning, a beautiful brand new opening, a beautiful brand new way of feeling, of being, and even of perceiving. There is this expansiveness in the sense that, like, there's this energy present in the Ace of Cups, that it is a never-ending flow, that this flow is continuous and always omnipresent. You can drink from the waters of life anytime you need to. The fountain of youth is coming to mind, the concept of the fountain of youth, and it reminds me of, I've had conversations with older or elderly people before, and I've had some very wise ones come across my path and one of them I'll never forget. This was like an 80-year-old man who told me this once, and he said, "You're only old if you think you are." And mind you, I was probably in my 20s when he said this to me, and he was in his 80s, and he said this: "You're only old if you think you are." And I have carried that statement with me ever since I heard it, because it just felt so true to me, and it felt so freeing. You're only as old as you think you are. You're only struggling as much as you think you are. You're only lacking as much as you think you are. You're growing as much as you think you are. You're thriving as much as you think you are. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And so this Ace of Vessels is this opening, this expansiveness, this readily available spring of fulfillment, of purpose, of life force, quite literally, and wisdom and knowing, and even like messages. The water element is symbolic of like the spiritual end of things, the emotions, the connections, those things that we feel. That's where this is at. And so these antlers being present too, it shows that continual connection to, these unseen worlds, these unseen elements, all of the energy that's present. And it's like this well of, ancestral wisdom, this natural wisdom that nature provides, and that is present when we tune into it, when we allow ourselves to be receptive to that. It's like never ending. It's continuously flowing, and it's always present for us to drink from and also to share with others. Once we discover this pond, it's like there's maybe a mechanism within us, within our shared species or our shared families or friendships or communities, that we want to share this beautiful, pond, or this beautiful source, right? This source with others. And there's always also the message, like, to choose wisely. So I think this is really symbolic too, because I've been meeting with a really wonderful elder in my community, this ancestor energy, and his philosophy is to live a life of service and hospitality. And he talks all the time about how fulfilled he is in doing what he's done and living his life, the way that he lives it. And so, these cards kind of symbolize that relationship to me as well. But in any sense, like, I see, as I went through these, why I was given these again to read through in this way. So thank you so much for watching. And remember, it's never really outside of us, this idea of connection, this idea of fulfillment, this idea of happiness, joy, purpose, drive, will, ambition, all of these things that we desire and that we have been taught or have learned to seek outside of ourselves are always present within and all around us, should we be open to perceiving in this wholesome way, instead of the way that we know or have been taught, or our patterns and familiar patterns. It's more about tuning into this knowing in the heart and trusting in the cycles and the rhythms and the wisdom that is present when we get silent and listen. Namaste.